All right, everyone, time to listen in to Steve Merrill from Pro Sports Info, who joins us each and every week to break down the betting lines in college football for the three big games of our choosing. And we appreciate Steve dropping by on a regular basis. Steve, how you doing today?
Hey, Mark, doing well.
All right, let's run them down. The games that matter in college football as we get ourselves into November and the November stretch toward conference championships and games and college football playoff appearances. Before we do that, Steve, Ohio State continues to batter the betting line, regardless of how good the opponent seems to be. And the latest example, of course, a 31-point win against a Wisconsin team is a 14-point favorite, and it's a long line of Ohio State taking on better and better opponents, and they keep just trumping the line.
Yeah, they really do. I mean, there's nothing misleading about it. We talked a few weeks ago in that Friday night game how Northwestern was getting more points as a home underdog than they'd allowed all season on average, and Ohio State still throttled them. You know, Wisconsin was in an interesting spot, of course, with that outright loss to Illinois as a 4-touchdown favorite on the road the week before. Not sure how much of that played in. But, yeah, I mean, all those reasons aside, Ohio State looks pretty unstoppable right now. And it's legitimate. They're good on both sides of the ball. You know, a lot of times, you know, you have a great offense, you can blow opponents out, but it looks like they're pretty strong defensively as well this year.
We also have a situation in which we continue to hold to a stretch of weeks in which we have a 20-plus point underdog pull off a major win. This time, Oklahoma goes down to Kansas State as a 23-point favorite there. Did you have any inkling of that coming our way?
No, but, you know, it's interesting, Mark, when you look at the money line on that game, they were a 23.5-point underdog, but some sports books, they were only 9-1, you know, on the money line to win outright. The best I could find them at some that had very low juice was like 15-1. Oklahoma was about 24, 25-1, 1-25 the other way, rather. So, you know, on the surface, a 23.5-point dog winning outright seems insane, but then you start thinking, 9-1, 10-1 long shot is not that unusual. It's about a 10% chance. Mathematically, they had about a 6% chance of winning that game straight up as a 23.5-point dog. So it's not crazy. It's unusual. It's surprising. But, you know, I go back to what I said about Ohio State. You know, Oklahoma is that type of team. That's exactly what I was thinking about, actually, when I said high score and blows teams out, but suspect on defense. That's where I think Ohio State's a much better squad this year. Oklahoma always has that problem, and that was a high-scoring shootout. You know, they scored over 40 points, but they lost because they couldn't stop a mediocre Kansas State offense.
You can get my Week 10 college football predictions and my weekly predictions by grabbing the link in the description section below. I'm 57% against the spread, but if you want the real deal, mine's more about joining the community. We have exclusive live streams over there. The predictions are just kind of on the side as a fun thing that we do. If you want to check out the real work there from somebody who knows and is in the game each and every day, you check out Steve's work at prosportsinfo.com. Please check him out there with the NBA started up and, of course, the NFL in full go. Here are three games coming up this week. Oregon's gunning for a college football playoff appearance. The aforementioned Oklahoma loss certainly opens the door to a certain extent. USC still gunning for a Pac-12 championship and very much in play, tied for the division lead. USC has won all of its games at home up until finally winning one on the road, barely at Colorado this past weekend. But USC is a 7-point underdog taking on Oregon at home.
Yeah, we touched briefly on that Friday night game last week when we did the show. You know, we talked about it was a tough spot for USC. They did get the win, but failed to cover, of course, as a 10.5-point road favorite, but still a good win for them on the road in the tough spot in the altitude, a primetime Friday night game. They now get to return home with an extra day of rest, whereas Oregon had to play Saturday and travel. So slight setup advantage here for USC as the home dog. Both offenses are clicking right now. Oregon's put up 35 or more in 3 straight games. USC has now put up 35 or more in each of their past 2 games. And this was a USC offense that was a little sluggish beginning of the season, some quarterback problems, but they look pretty consistent now. And I think that's one of the reasons we've seen this total go from 58 to 59. Wouldn't be surprised to see it rise even higher by this weekend. It should be a high-scoring game.
Steve Merrill on the line from prosportsinfo.com. Please join him right there. All right, Georgia, Florida, by far the biggest game of the week. This will set up either team to appear in Atlanta in the SEC championship game, and the other one will be discarded most likely with 2 losses and out of the college football playoff. Georgia was, of course, the overwhelming favorite, division favorite when the season started, but they've got the loss against South Carolina. Florida with a more respectable loss at LSU. Where's the line here? About 3 or 4?
Yeah, right now Florida is anywhere from about a 3.5 to 4.5 point favorite. It's been fluctuating this week, so it's over that key number of a field goal on technically a neutral field. Obviously, as you said, Florida's loss was much worse. I look at the point spread. They were a 20.5-point favorite in that game at home. They lost outright to South Carolina. Meanwhile, Florida lost by 14 as a 14-point road dog at LSU. So no question, if you're really being fair, you have to say Florida has the edge right now. But it's not going to matter because, as you also mentioned, whoever loses this game will be on the outside looking in for sure. Hard to imagine a two-loss team, especially not being in the conference championship game, is going to have a shot. Although I guess the SEC is the one conference you can maybe get away with that. But you have to figure Alabama and LSU are almost locks to be in there. One of them also will not even have to play that extra game, which might be a good thing because losing that championship game actually could hurt you at some point if you have one loss going in. With that said, though, I think this game should be pretty low-scoring defensive battle, about 47.5 is the total. You got a Georgia team that allows just 10 a game. Keep in mind, when they lost to South Carolina, they only gave up 20, but they only scored 17. That was the problem. Florida, meanwhile, though, they gave up 42 to LSU, so this is going to be a real test for them off, and I think that's why we see Georgia as the favorite here. I think there's a lot of suspect about Florida's defense still, especially with the giving up 42 to LSU, and I think that's why Florida is the underdog in this game.
Christmas is coming, folks. Shop Amazon. Use the link in the description section below. It's the same shopping experience. Doesn't cost you a penny, but helps out the channel. All right, now we've got a rare group of 5 game that meets our criteria for a top 3 game of the week. SMU undefeated, number 15 in the nation, taking on Memphis on the fringe of the top 25 with 1 loss this game in Memphis.
Yeah, and both teams coming in without rest, so home field should be a little bit of an edge for Memphis here. These are 2 great offensive teams. It's a very high total this week. It's around 70, but for good reason. You got a Memphis squad putting up almost 40 a game, SMU putting up 43. Very balanced attack for Memphis this year. They run and throw the ball well. SMU relies heavily on the pass. They actually have but despite averaging 200 yards a game on the ground, they actually average less yards per carry than their opponents allow on average. So I think the key here is going to be the passing attack, and I do think SMU is going to be a little more one-dimensional in this game, and there could be some value with Memphis here, and that's why we've seen this line go from 3 up to 5.5. There's been a lot of sharp money early in the week on Memphis so far.
Steve joins us on a regular basis every week. Join him right here for his selections, but you get the full in-depth look at all the games across the board in college football, the NFL, and the NBA at prosportsinfo.com. All right, Steve, I'm curious to see where you're going to go for your wild card selection of the week.
Yeah, first of all, last week, as you know, we had Rutgers 7.5-point home dog against Liberty. They won the game outright by 10. By the way, Liberty is now over a 3-touchdown road favorite at UMass this week. But I'm not going to touch UMass. That's how bad they are. But I thought it was really interesting that Rutgers won that game outright. We were all saying how crazy it was to see a Big Ten home dog of a touchdown to Liberty. I'm going to go with another ugly conference game, though, and this is Florida International, Old Dominion, the Conference USA. Old Dominion's really struggling this year. They played UVA, Virginia, really tough a month and a half ago, led 17-0 on the road, lost 28-17. But since then, they've lost every game, and they've gone 1-4 against the spread. So I think they became a little overvalued after that. Meanwhile, Florida International, terrible loss last week, 50-17 as a 1-point road favorite against Middle Tennessee. They're still 4-4 in the season, though. They really have to win to stay in bowl contention. And as I've always said, I like going against bad underdogs that can't throw the ball or have a bad offense because they don't have backdoor cover potential. And Old Dominion fits that criteria to a T. They average 14.5 points a game, 3.7 yards per play, and only 5.5 yards per pass. So when they get behind in this game, they can't catch up. And Florida International -17 has plenty of motivation to win big this week after that ugly loss last week on the road.
There you go, folks. Steve Merrill, prosportsinfo.com. Please join him right there. He joins us on a regular basis every week to break down the betting lines in college football. Steve, we appreciate it as always.
Thanks, Mark.